We are live.
Yes, we are live. Welcome to the new media show, everyone. And Todd had to do a reboot right before the show. Rob showed up and I couldn't hear him. But hey, welcome.
Yeah, back for another episode of the new
Yeah,
media show.
yeah, and
It's
it's
great.
it's almost as much stuff changes, it stays the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's an evolution that's going on, right? It's not, there's no like week to week huge jumps in anything. It's kind of like, one step at a time. That's the way,
Yeah,
podcasting has been like that for years.
and I giggle because and of course everybody's gonna say, "Oh, please kill us." The all of a sudden the interest, the fantastic interest of video and podcasting and open RSS.
Yeah, right. It seems like such a new concept,
Yeah,
doesn't it to you?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
so
So,
y-
yeah, I mean,
and,
I
you
think
know
it's good.
it's good that they're talking about it, but there's this behind the scenes conversation going on in a Slack channel. I don't know if you're in there or not. It's a PSP discussion. It's got a whole bunch
Oh,
of
I
people.
think I used to be in that group, but I'm not in there
Yeah,
currently.
there's a
Yeah.
whole bunch of people, and of course Justin and the others have been all talking about HLS and
Hmm.
the sexiness and when we were at the podcast show in London, I talked to Ted and the team at Apple, and they've known for a very, very long time, at least where my head's been at. I don't know if anyone else has been telling them this, so maybe and
Mike, Todd.
yeah, yeah, you're back.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe I was the lone wolf in describing the the things we want. And so that's what happens when I have to reboot everything and wasn't able to run my preventive measures is now the road is disconnected twice in a row for no reason.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. The computer's either getting adjusted or whatever. I don't know.
There's a driver conflict of some sort,
Yeah,
maybe.
it's this Roadcaster do. It's a piece of shit. So
Well, I still have the first Roadcaster Pro, and it doesn't
it's
typically
solid.
have too many problems.
Yeah,
Right.
so maybe I'm gonna have to take this home and bring back a pro on the next, I mean, the original one.
Yeah.
And it never disconnects. This one just arbitrarily says, good night. Um, at least it gives me a heads up. I hear a little ding going off my headset now when it disconnects. I can reach over and pull the USB cable out and plug it back in. Um,
Right.
so I, someone's saying, well, we don't want pass through. And I was like, okay, be careful what you wish for. Because you may wake up one morning and your CDN bill is ka-ching. You could have serious damage if you all of a sudden get popular with a video. Audio,
Oh, you
it's
you're talking about just generally with hosting video,
yeah,
regardless if
yeah,
it's HLS
or MP4.
or MP4. Yeah. Yeah.
So and people are saying, oh, we're going to lose monetization if Apple caches the video. And I'm like, are you monetizing external video now?
Well, that's the piece that somewhat is missing is the programmatic for video podcasts,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Isn't I think the architecture is there. It's just it's never been implemented with any kind of a podcasting
Well, no,
platform
not
I'm
with any
aware of.
podcasting platform. No.
Right.
And
Right.
you want to talk about some cost. So so I'm like, okay, if you want to pay for your bandwidth, and doesn't want Apple to cache, then, you know, set a flag. I, I'm
Well,
I truly believe the if they want the best user experience, that's what we do is let Apple cache the video content. Now people are going to be like, "Oh no!" But in retrospect, how about a ping back to us say, "Hey, someone's
right.
listened."
I mean, if that's the only hurdle, then yeah, I think that's a good solution.
But it just
Um, yeah, it's actually a complicated conversation because you start talking about HLS, then you're streaming that content to Apple versus Apple capturing the MP4 file and they're streaming
yeah,
it.
there was a
Right?
there was
Yeah.
a comment, man. I'm not going to say who it was. Um, Uh, so funny. This chat is just so it makes me giggle so much. I love Justin and the rest of the folks, but someone said, "Yeah, MP4 is kind of a one size fits all. You get one resolution, if it's way too large, small for the current
Wow.
device posture, and you lose the seamless switch between audio and video and interstitials, multiple captions, and other stuff in HLS. But it's certainly better than nothing." So, essentially, that was a comment made by someone I respect, obviously, in that group. But
Hmm.
um, Rob, has anyone in this audience ever complained about this show's video?
Uh, I mean, it is true. I haven't heard anybody complain about it. So,
We have never had feedback from a podcaster and or a listener of a podcast giving feedback. Maybe in the early days.
yeah, back
Maybe in the
back when it kind
beginning.
of sucked, but
Yeah.
that was because our video probably wasn't very good.
Well, it's also bandwidth
Right.
just sucked 15
Yeah.
years ago. So,
Yeah.
maybe 15 years ago, but in the past 10 years, nah, no one's complained.
Yeah,
So,
I guess it depends, if you get into this conversation about it like a variable bitrate playback situation, I I don't know that um you can really do that effectively in an MP4 download situation. I think the player would have to be intelligent enough to be able to play back
yeah,
a
probably. But
VBR file that's
up to this point,
doing
again,
video.
people are 15% of you listening are watching. I should have said 15% of you are watching this show right now. So,
Yeah.
you tell us, is there an issue? So, um,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, and I
it's
think that the strategy that was proposed by Justin, I believe it took into account
yeah,
MP4
it did. It
and
did. It did.
HLS
Yeah, it did.
as optional enclosures.
Yeah.
And then also it talked about feeding the video to YouTube
Which
and Spotify
no big
too via API,
yeah,
which I
well,
thought was
I'm not feeding to I
yeah.
refuse to feed to Spotify via API. People that wanna do that can. Just
Well, currently, I don't believe either one of those platforms accepts video via API.
yes, both do.
Right?
No, you can
Both
submit video.
both do?
Oh, yeah, you can
Okay.
submit video to YouTube via API, and and if you want to sign the agreement with Spotify, you can submit via API.
Yeah, I thought it was only for special partners
No,
that
well,
they
it's
were
basically they offered it up to us some months ago, and I said no.
mm, okay.
And they were credulous. Why would you do that? And I go back to the conversation we've already had a half a dozen times is that it placates the audio feed and the audio gets
Yeah.
demonetized. Yeah. So,
Yeah, if they stop doing that, I think it changes the
right, changes
conversation.
the conversation. Yeah, it does.
And I think that would be a smart move for Spotify to remove that aspect of what they're doing with video
Well,
because
the
it's
pro
kind of predatory right now.
yeah, the
So,
problem though is do they'll definitely prioritize video. And are people just
but
going to click play and stick it in their pocket and let a video play and they're also caching too, so that's another issue. So, yeah.
yeah, it's them wiping out
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the RSS-based audio
Yeah.
version, which is
Yeah.
where the objection comes in.
Yeah. So, anyway,
It
It's just funny this conversation's continuing, so we don't need to
Well,
spend a lot of time on it.
I think we're getting to the meat of the matter here, and I think the final message in the kind of chat room that we're both in, um, about podcasting, that was the last post that was made by Justin, was this idea that, all this doesn't really work very well if Apple doesn't
Right.
make make video
Yeah.
discoverable.
Yeah, yeah. It's a mute point. So
Yeah.
it goes back to Apple's gonna tell us what to do.
Yeah. Well, in this case, I don't think it's a big shift for them. It's it's just, is it in the pipeline coming anytime soon is the question.
Ed says in the chat, YouTube is the most frequently used service to listen to podcasts in the US. Again, this is the story, Ed. So be careful on, quoting that as a quote.
Well, I think you have to get clear on what you're talking about there. Are you talking about the numbers of episodes being consumed, or are you talking about the number of users that may be consuming what they seem
A
to
portion
think
of
is a
yeah,
podcast?
a portion of a yeah.
Right, right.
So,
Because if you're actually talking about consumption, Apple's still the biggest.
yeah, for sure.
So, of what is termed a podcast, depending on whose definition that you
Well,
use.
we're not gonna get into those definitions at all, but more
Right.
importantly, the funding tag, which, all of a sudden people are, oh my God, NPR supporting funding and da da da. And I'm like, hello, where have you all been for the last couple of years here? Actually, more than a
Yeah.
couple of years.
Yeah. Well, I
So that,
think it's a good move.
yeah, there's about 70,000 shows that support the RSS funding tag, which I actually was told I need to fix ours. There's something wrong. The link is having an issue, so I need to look at that. It reminded me.
Todd, are you getting the feeling like that because of the moves that Spotify's making and the talk in the industry around video and YouTube's kind of influence coming into the space, that there's more energy and interest in the podcasting 2.0 and
Yeah, all of a
the
sudden,
PSP
big,
stuff now
yeah,
more than ever?
yeah, because there's a reason.
Yeah,
People are seeing the numbers and they're worried about survivability.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So so I think this may be a good time for the Podcast Standards Project and others, as we push towards trying to figure out, what's the next innovation around this video question?
Yeah.
How can RSS hold on to its distribution, um, core for podcasting, audio and video podcasting? That's the question we're trying to answer here, because podcasting, when it started, was audio and video
Yeah. It's been
podcasting.
that way
So
from the beginning.
right. So let's go back and support what this medium started out as, and especially now when we're faced with big competitors like Spotify and YouTube who want to disrupt the audio side
Yeah. Yeah.
with video, that I think it makes sense for us to, push forth an optional effort on the video side with RSS.
And
And I think,
it's no doubt, Ed says hard to say. I do see YouTube starting to dance with of course it does. And you've got a lot of YouTubers that have what something they're calling a podcast that don't have a podcast on Apple. They are just on YouTube. And one of my favorite YouTube channels, they have a podcast. I don't watch it. It's a separate channel on YouTube. They call it a
yeah.
podcast, and I've told them about 100 times in their YouTube comments, I can't find you on Apple Podcast.
And to try and draw a parallel to the early years of the video podcasting ecosystem that existed in the first few years of the podcast medium, um, there were a few shows. I wouldn't say it was a huge number of shows that were video podcasts only.
Oh
They
yeah,
didn't do audio.
yeah, they did.
So
Yeah,
I think that could be what comes out of this.
yeah,
Again, is that if Apple supports this, we will see video
right,
first
for sure.
podcasts come
Yeah,
out and
yeah,
be distributed via RSS.
like they were in the beginning.
Right. I think we'll see that get energized again.
Yeah,
And then, obviously those shows will probably be published over to YouTube as well and probably over to Spotify. So then we start the the development of a real video ecosystem that includes podcasts, not excludes podcasts. So,
yeah.
right.
So, you know, it is we'll see what happens. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
you know, it, I think what this is and I kind of agree with what some other folks' assessment is. It's the new shiny object, and if video was all it was meant to be, then this YouTube channel that I have would have exploded years ago, and it has never exploded. And so, yet the audio video podcast continues to do remarkably good numbers
Mhm.
beyond anything that's on YouTube. But I never had a true YouTube strategy either. So
Well, you're also an audio first creator too. So, the video side has been kind of secondary to your priorities
yeah, but
as
I've
well.
always had a nice studio background, and the aesthetics have always
Sure.
been good, and flip in different images and lower
Hmm.
thirds and all that stuff has always been
That's true.
part of the show. So again, but I do this is the show we do as a I don't know if this makes for compelling content on YouTube or not. We get 20, 30 views or 100 views or whatever we get on. At least mine does. Yours get a little better than mine. And compared to the thousands on the RSS based stuff. So it looks like I don't fully understand how a company that is an ad buyer network can go into bankruptcy. Um, PPX.
Well,
How
this, yeah.
it it just it surprises me that something where you're working on a 50-50 revenue share and you can't make it work.
Well, Todd, this may be less about that company and more about the advertising market in Canada too.
Oh, maybe.
I've been hearing talk in the industry that the podcast advertising market is a little soft right now, and CPMS have been declining
Oh, that's
pretty
that.
pretty significantly from what I'm hearing,
Oh,
and there's just not as many campaigns right now that are coming through the pipeline.
hmm.
So, I don't know if there's
How many
kind of
billion
like
are we
maybe,
supposed to be?
well, you know, it's possible that we could still hit those kind of numbers, but it from what I'm hearing, there's a lull that's going on. I don't know if it's in certain genres of ad buying that's going on out there, but that's just
Hmm.
I've been hearing that. I'm actually trying to dig into that a little bit deeper to get people to actually tell me really, um, really the candid truth about what's going on because I think
Oh,
there's a
yeah.
tendency to try and tell the industry what the industry wants to hear
That's
and
right.
not necessarily what the truth is. So, because I mean, everybody wants to be positive, everybody wants to be optimistic, and everybody wants to put out this growth vibe about the industry. But I think if you're participating in the industry, you want to kind of know what the ground truth is and not
Yeah.
just what the fluff is. So, that's the tension that's in the space right now.
And
This could be a reflection of
well, it'll be
that.
interesting to hear what people are saying at El Podcast Movement when
Yes.
what people are saying behind the scenes, because usually people are, well, it's rare though for, well, sign of the times, people are very aggressive at the podcast show trying to get my programmatic business. I had at least 4 companies talk to me about, providing inventory for the
Yeah.
programmatic. Our programmatic is doing well. Our programmatic is still
Or
continues to do well.
are you talking about providing inventory or buys?
Inventory.
Inventory of
Well,
ads,
basically,
right?
they wanted to, be the supplier, replace
Of
SoundStack or
ads,
yeah, yeah,
of
yeah,
ads,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. So, at the same point, I work with Backbeat Media. Backbeat Media
Yep.
is the company that we send all of our big podcasters to for representation on host threads. And I meet with Dave every month, 6 weeks to get a feel, and maybe they're niche enough. Maybe they're not feeling it. He said sales were good, so he would tell me if things were down,
Okay.
if things were
Okay.
soft. So I'm for sure that I would get the straight story there on that. But we are lit and live today, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're on one of those newfangled podcasting apps, you can listen to the show live on the app.
Mhm.
So maybe,
So,
maybe ultimately this discussion then will transform into also, I think the thing that has a huge value for podcasters right now is this ability to go live and to have a live show, whether it be audio only or audio and video. So maybe this will drive some of that conversation. I don't know. We'll
well, that
see.
might be an important part of the industry as you look to the future with all this AI content coming in. Is I don't know that AI content's gonna be doing live, so it's
Right.
I think I've used this term before, it's proof of life.
Oh,
Um,
that's true.
it is what live turns into be.
Yeah.
Um, and but it takes a certain amount of, I guess, kind of experience to do live effectively.
Hmm.
It's not a it's not a turn the camera on and it's magically all gonna work for you.
No, no, not at all.
There's
So I
a lot
haven't.
of juggling. It's almost like being a juggler in a circus, right?
Yeah.
Trying to juggle a lot.
I haven't looked at the should move this. I haven't looked at the numbers for June uh,
Of what?
of
Number
statistics because we put out a statistics report every month.
on
Um,
what aspect?
yeah, for basically it's basically consumption at Blueberry. What total downloads were.
Oh, okay.
These things, and I haven't seen. That's due probably this week because of the holidays. So um, seeing this news from Podtrack about having a ranking dip. Um, it's
Yeah.
interesting. Podtrack released its June ranking show month over month losses in unique audience for every participating publisher. So that's concerning that they're seeing a drop. But I don't know if we've seen that here. I'll have to go back and look at the global numbers.
It also says advertisers and publishers must now reevaluate where audiences are shifting and adjust strategies accordingly.
Who
And
who made
I
that
think they're,
commentary?
um, well, it came out of the article that that Podtrack put out.
Hmm. Well,
So, and then I added a couple things in here too. Um, but yeah, it's all these things might be related to
oh,
each other,
I'm sure.
right? The whole ad CPM models. It could also be that the advertisers and publishers are shifting their focus a little bit to include video buys
Oh,
now
I'm
too.
sure.
So that may impact the audio buys.
Yeah. So interesting that Podtrack's making this commentary.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. It is an interesting, I guess for a better word, a little bit of an insight, a little crack below the glass that we
Yeah.
normally don't hear.
Well, it's a changing and evolving landscape. It's not the same, and I think many in many in the industry would like things to just stay the same, right?
Yeah.
But they don't.
Yeah.
So the economy changes, these
Well,
brands start prioritizing different kinds of ways of spending their money.
well,
Um,
it's been evident. We've been saying this for a long time. It's flatter than a pancake. So, there's just not a and here's again, this the narrative when you have an 800-pound gorilla like YouTube saying things that they say, and then you have
Mhm.
the whole industry going ape shit gaga over video, and every podcast consultant in the world saying you have to have video, and then
I think,
then
Todd, the reason that happened is
well,
that there was a perception that that's where the growth was.
and maybe there is growth there, but when you say that, then you exclude a whole class of potential creators, of new podcasters that say, "Oh, it's just this story. We've heard this story many,
Yeah.
many times. Oh, podcast is dying because of this or that." And,
Yeah, it's true.
we're not stupid at Blueberry. We're we're embracing our vid to pod product is being very successful. Um, Not so successful that it's taking up, it's not like a 10% revenue line yet. When it's 10% revenue line, then they'll get my attention. But
Mhm. Well, there's probably an awareness issue with it too.
yeah, making people understand it's there once they find out. Matter of fact, uh, we've had a number of folks that have canceled their podcast hosting at other platforms because they basically don't have to do double work. And they come
Yeah.
over to us and migrate over essentially. So
Yeah.
it remains a pretty successful endeavor. But so maybe I need to double down on that.
So I thought this next topic, podcasting passes radio in Germany for young people.
It took this long.
Yeah. Well, um,
Do people in
that's
America even do youth in America even listen to the radio?
yeah. Well,
Do we
it's
have that number here? Do we
I don't
know?
actually have it in front of me, but
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen that number published in the US before.
says for the first time, podcasts have overtaken traditional radio. For 18 to 29-year-olds, monthly listenership among women has also surged, tripling since 2019. So, yeah. Youth markets increasingly favor on demand audio over traditional legacy media formats.
Here's what's scary is used to be when there was bad weather or an event, something that was critical to the community, you would flip to FM 100 and you would get that was the utility for me that was important, after I really completely transitioned to digital and, as back, probably, 2004, I started shunning radio because of podcasting. And, so now, I think I still have one AM/FM battery powered. I think it's a hand crank model or something. It's emergency radio. I don't think that if there's something going on, let's say there's a tornado or a hurricane, I don't think my local. Of course, I live inland, so it's not like I'm going to have hurricane coverage in Michigan, but in Hawaii, there's no one at the radio station. It's all running on a computer. So
Yeah.
how do they have any sort of break-in where they can come in and say, "Hey, we've got a 82 car pile up in the fog, south of Fresno, or we have a tornado on the ground in your community, your community named XYZ." And I don't think there's the ability to radio to serve the public in that regard anymore. So with
That's gonna have that's gonna have to be done by AI now, Todd.
Well, no, I think what's already happened is what do I do now? Or I look out the window and I say, "Oh, there's weather. There's bad weather coming." What do? Grab my mobile device and I load weather.com or Weather Underground or one of those apps, and I figure
Yeah.
out, okay, I've got a tornado. As a matter of fact, it notifies me that you have a thunderstorm warning or tornado watch or whatever it is based upon where I'm at, and That's how I get my notifications now. So the radio to me has lost all of its purpose, and I just continue to be amazed that it holds on as strong as it's still holding on.
Well, it's mainly holding on with the music side. I think that's the genre of radio that's gonna last the
Yeah.
longest. Talk radio doesn't have a bright future.
Ed says, "Do you think that podcasting will ever shift from CPM model? It's already multiple models. There's
It's
already
already
it's multi
paid
yeah,
subscription.
pay it's multiple listener support, value for value. There's flat rate sponsorships. My tech show has been flat rate from the beginning. So I was never on a CPM model with GoDaddy. It's always been flat rate with bonus. So I think the models are pretty diverse right now. But I think a lot of shows are
So when you
still
say
getting paid
flat rate,
CPM.
is that a fixed dollar amount and then
Yeah,
bonuses on top of that?
yeah,
Okay.
a base. Yeah, I get a base rate. So, but Spotify, I think they've been released something. I saw that they gave some product back to its original owner. It was Podlink or something like that. I can't remember. I saw the article. I don't have it in front of me. It's not in our show notes,
Yeah,
but
I think it was a I think it was a link thing that was
yeah,
picked
one
up by Podscribe, I think.
yeah. Well, they bought it. Pod Sites bought it before they were
Pod
acquired.
sites.
They
Right.
before they were acquired, and they've reverted it. Um, so
Yeah.
um,
But the Spotify deal offering $5,000
oh
free
yeah,
ad credit
we
to
took
new video
yeah we
podcasters
took
to promote their shows on the platform.
yeah we talked about that a little bit on the last show. Yeah,
Mhm.
5,000. Yeah,
Those are credits. That's
credits.
not like
Yeah, you're not getting cash.
Spotify's actually spending any
Yeah,
money,
that's right,
right?
and they get to write that all off. That's a tax deduction for them.
Right.
Yeah, that goes straight. Yeah, we'll give you 5,000 credits, and the accountant puts $5,000 in promotional credits, and they get to write that off. So big loss to them, and they probably fill that in unused inventory. So it
Yeah.
really costs them nothing.
Right. Exactly. It's a
So
strong incentive to shift audio shows into the
yeah,
video format,
oh
Todd.
yeah,
Didn't you know that?
yeah, you know, tell that to the $600 camera I have right there now, and yeah, I switched cameras. Um,
Very
very
good. So
happy with
what's the
it.
camera that you're using now?
I'm using a PTZ Optics fixed camera.
Is it like a webcam or
It is a pro camera that operates as a webcam.
oh, it's like a mirrorless SLR kind of a
Yeah, yeah,
format?
yeah. It's like a PTZ, but it's without the swivel on it. And I'm very, 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 very happy with its output. And probably, I have a couple of cameras at studio in Michigan that are getting really long in the tooth. So
Oh, it's a PTZ camera.
well,
So it's that
it
large aperture kind of
well, it
pivoting.
no, it doesn't pivot.
Doesn't pivot.
It's the camera that came out of their PTZ camera.
Line. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I see if I can actually find it
But
here.
it's a fixed mount
Yeah,
camera,
it's a
right?
fixed mount. Yeah, and it's got focal adjustments, white balancing. It's got all the pro features. Um,
Can you zoom in and out with it?
Yeah,
All that kind of
I'm
stuff?
zoomed in now. Yeah, got a pretty wide field of view, and does pretty good on. So far so good. I'm pretty happy with it. It's
Yeah, it seems sharp.
yeah, it's sharp. It does a little. I've got one thing I got to figure out on it on color correction, because you'll see once in a while I'll shift in color, so I got to get it so it's locked and not auto changing on the. Probably a white balance issue. Is probably I need to manually white balance it instead of letting it auto white balance. These lights I've got are pretty good. but
Yeah, I set my camera to be a little bit more saturated
mm,
in the colors, so
so that you don't
so they're
look like you're so
bolder,
white.
right?
Yeah. So for those that
Yeah,
did notice, yes, I've lost some weight. Lost 14 pounds.
and
So,
you lost your beard too.
well, I haven't had that in a while. So,
Okay.
yeah, maybe,
I have I have a shadow, but I wouldn't
yeah.
say I have a beard.
I've got 1 day stubble right now. Um,
Yeah.
so what is this thing you've got here about video podcast aesthetics? Oh, living room style. In other words, they're building studios. People are building
Yeah,
studio.
podcast studios are have been for a while becoming more visual
Yeah.
in their conversational type of formats, and
Yep.
I think that trend has been going on for a while now. I think there's actually a trend kind of, I think, starting to develop away from that now. Um, I think this may not be at the cutting edge of where it's at right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you see some early signs of that on the YouTube side,
Mm-hmm.
where people are increasingly doing stuff outside, or they're doing it in, like an office setting or something
Oh
like
yeah.
that. I mean, people are still concerned about the aesthetics,
Yeah.
right? But they're not as, locked into these kind of like these you know, the big microphones, the big
Mm-hmm.
couches, all this kind of,
Yeah.
they're trying to
Make it look
um, like it's more real,
making it
right?
look like Good Morning America.
Yeah, it's not like stage
Right, right,
sets,
right,
that
right.
kind of stuff. I think the stage sets kind of thing is, I think we're going to move past that stage, and it's going to be doing things in more authentic looking places, right?
You know,
Um,
I've been on a
yeah.
kick recently of watching a lot of bourbon channels. That's kind of my latest infatuation over the past.
Bourbon channels,
Yeah,
drinking channels.
yeah,
Okay.
bourbon reviews
Okay.
and watching the bourbon bros and gals talk about different bourbons and and do all the be honest with you, I don't have a palate. If I can tell the difference between Jack Daniels and let's say a Scotch. Obviously, that's a pretty easy difference. But when you get into bourbons, and I can tell the difference between a wheat or a rye, that when it gets into these flavors, oh, I'm tasting marshmallow. I'm like, GTFO. Come on, you taste marshmallow and drinking 130 proof alcohol? Really? And you know, eh, come on. You know, if the flavor's good, it's good. And but people have these refined palates. Oh, and they give these caramel and all these descriptions. I'm like, you're talking about whiskey or alcohol that was put in raw dog. It was basically put in raw in a oak charred barrel. And what are you going to taste? You're going to taste the recipe and the
Right.
charred oak. So
Right.
I mean the
Of course.
charred, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. For if they have these palates can actually taste that stuff great. I would not make what do they call it? A wine, what is the word for the wine experts that can taste wine? Foulier or I don't know, whatever the name is.
Sure.
So I get a kick out of watching these bourbon channels, and all those guys have their bourbon collections behind. It's like and of course
Okay.
they've got their $1,000 Poppy Van Winkle, and they've got all their different alcohols behind them, and in today's world, if I buy bourbon, I drink it, and I'm not going to buy $1,000 or $3,000 Pappy Van Winkle because it's 18 years old and supposedly fantastic. And I
And I
basically
don't drink at all,
I,
Ted.
I
So
I
yeah.
I made a rule no more than $10 per year of age. That is probably the top end on liquor. But I will say this: if anyone sees a Jack 10, 12, or 14 in their liquor store and it's priced at $10 per year or thereabouts, I'm good for it. Pick it up and ship it to me. I will buy it from you. Jack 10, 12, or 14.
Yeah,
Uh, but
it's
anyway,
awesome.
so yeah, all the Bourbon Bros have their, they got the glass all lit up. It's beautiful what they've done with a little bit of lighting. So
So is it a lot like my background
yeah,
or
but it's
whatever,
full
but
of
just
bourbon
has
bottles.
bottles?
Yeah,
Right,
just
right,
bottles.
yeah.
Except it's a little more narrow because most of these guys don't have 500 bottles because it would take 500 bottles to fill your background. You know.
Yeah.
So at 100,
They can be empty bottles, it's
yeah, they
alright.
could be. I don't know if you'd want to have 500 empty bottles. It probably would be a life insurance liability.
Right. It's
Uh,
almost like the equivalent of having a bookshelf behind you, right? It's
yeah,
kind of
yeah. I've got
yeah.
one bottle of Buffalo that's actually Eagle Rare in my studio when I'm in Hawaii. If you'll look above my head, there's one bottle of Eagle Rare on the counter, and I've only had 3 people say, "Oh, I saw that Eagle Rare." You know.
I think, most of mine, my background is microphones, old microphones that
Oh
I don't
yeah,
use
yeah.
anymore.
I've got a whole bunch of those in a closet. I could break out all those and put them on
Yeah,
stands. Yeah, might be fun.
right, right.
The
So,
so yeah, aesthetics. It's all the aesthetics seem to be changing. And you know what that all means? Money, 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 money.
well, maybe not. I mean, if you wanna go down that path,
Yeah.
I think increasingly more people are trying to record it in natural settings,
Yeah.
that don't cost money.
Well, then you have to have a portable setup and I've been down that road before and getting the lighting right and it's still money, 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 money.
Well, you still have
So,
to get like a portable video camera or
oh,
something like that,
well,
which I have
tripods,
those
lights, all
as
that
well.
stuff. Yeah. More
Right.
power to them. I'm not doing anything that requires me to pack anything up anymore. I'm not. I don't. You lug that stuff around.
Well, you
Yeah.
can travel pretty light these days
Oh my
with
God, unbelievable. And
I
actually,
mean,
what I built here now is a little bit out of control. So if I ever depart, not have a permanent place here in the Philippines, I will definitely. How should we say it? I'll have to sell some stuff because this all will not fit in a suitcase or two. Yeah, maybe two.
yeah, I have the DJI Osmo 3 with
Yeah,
the the lavalier microphone that
yeah, I've got one of those. Never
connects
use
directly
it.
to it. You never use it.
Never use it. It's in a bag. Matter of fact, it's with me now. It's sitting right. Yeah, it's
I
behind the
think they've
behind
come
the
out
monitor.
with the Osmo 4
I think
now, I
so.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About every 9 months, there's a new one to make you spend another $700.
I think yeah, I think they can be a little more than that.
Yeah,
So,
they're a little
depends
pricey.
depends on if you get all of the attachments.
Yeah, get the extended package with the extra battery and so forth. But I see a lot of
Right.
folks that are doing um that's good about that unit is you don't have to shut the camera down. You can hot swap the battery and keep on
Well, it's got a
rolling.
pretty long battery. I mean,
Yeah,
I've got it on my shelf over here, but
yeah.
it's got a pretty it's got a pretty long battery. It'll go for a
I've
while.
got the first version of that that's about this big
Yeah, I
somewhere.
mean, the actual camera itself
Yeah,
is like you say, only about that big.
yeah.
So, and it comes in its own little carrying thing. You can just drop it in your pocket.
It is pretty remarkable how small stuff has gotten now, and how good of audio you can get from
Mhm.
just a little portable rig. And
Yep.
it bodes well for people that want to do a show on audio podcast on the cheap too. You know,
Yeah, and I think increasingly you can do terrific stuff with, like an iPhone or
oh,
an iPad.
absolutely.
I
And
think
it
there's
just one
yeah.
external, maybe an external audio kit, maybe just like the same thing, that stuff from DJI. Um, that will connect
Or
right to the iPhone or
or
record.
Rode
Yeah.
Rode's got some of those mics that connect right to the phone.
And if any of you are buying any of that stuff, I'm just going to foretell you, a lot of it's been white labeled. So there's a lot of white label solutions out there, same quality of remote recording mics that are in the hundreds of dollars, not the 500s of dollars. So don't be afraid to
Knockoffs, you mean? Is that
yeah,
what you're talking about,
yeah,
Todd?
yeah, go on Alibaba and look for them, and you'll find the same charging package, you'll find the same model. Yeah, they'll and again, it's by, you know,
Probably
Juju company or whatever.
it's probably made out of China. China is
Well
notorious for
well, it's
cloning products,
well, no
right?
no, what happens this is what really happens. A company designs that package and then licenses it to XYZ companies, and they license it and put their label on it. Yet the original version of that was never designed or built by the company that's representing it. So it wasn't
Yeah.
a some of this stuff, not everything, was originally a Chinese brand that was developed. I'd see this stuff 5 or 6 months in advance. It would be in, on Alibaba, and then all of a sudden you see a major company that has never been in this space before making an
Mhm.
announcement about a new product, and it was the clone of what I saw in Alibaba 6 months before. And I'm sure Rode builds their own stuff and and others, but you know, there's definitely and there's probably stuff that's cloned or ripped off from those designs too.
Yeah, I was watching a video on YouTube the other night. There's a guy that went on a trip to China and went to the city of Shenzhen,
Oh, yeah.
which is and did a complete tour of Shenzhen
Yeah,
and all of the tech that's in that city.
yeah.
I guess it's considered the most technologically advanced city probably in the world.
The
Um,
the challenge Shenzhen's having right now is because the most of them a lot of manufacturers are moving out. So, Apple has their iPhone, iPad factories in Shenzhen,
mhm,
and, Apple has moved a majority of their stuff to, Vietnam.
India. Oh, Vietnam.
Yeah,
Okay.
Vietnam and India, different they packed up the whole factories and moved. So, but still, if you're ever in China, Shenzhen would definitely be a great shopping location to pick up lots of electronics cheap.
Yeah. But it's also a fascinating place to see probably what our our future looks like with technology integrated into everything and camera
Yeah.
surveillance and
Oh, yeah.
drones delivering all sorts of products to you no
Yeah.
matter where you are and
Well, you look at my
um,
Wise cameras now. My Wise cameras now, which are $40 each or something like that, they have facial recognition. So you register faces that are familiar, like
yeah.
I can register my mom, my sister, the family members, and it will say, "Oh, okay, I don't need to do a report because there's Sherry or there's Chantel or there's Todd. Oh, there's a face I don't know. Let me record that." That's on a $40 camera.
Hmm.
It's insane, you know. So,
Yeah, I
um,
don't think you have to have really high end equipment
no.
anymore to get um, to be a content creator, to be a podcaster. I mean, I mean, I mean,
Oh, you
I
can
mean,
get
I'm a Luddite.
amazing.
I've got a iPhone 10 here, and it does
Think your time for an
amazing.
upgrade, Rob. You're a little.
What's that?
I think it's time for an update
It is, but the phone continues to
to
work
work.
well. So, right.
Yeah, I'm now
So
I've went from 2 years to 3 years. I'm now on a 3-year upgrade for Apple. I used to do it religiously every 2 years. Now I'm at 3. Same thing with my, Android. My Android, though, I will admit, is starting to get impacted by, battery life.
mm,
So I could probably the phone is perfect. I could
yeah,
probably
I actually took mine into the Apple store and they
oh, you got a
actually
new battery for it?
replaced the battery in it,
Oh,
and it gave it a whole nother probably year or two of life.
yeah. So, and it's
So
again, the cost of doing stuff is remarkably low.
it
Um,
is.
yeah,
Really, it's all about, your imagination, your creativity,
sure.
and how you can, do be compelling in the content. I think that is the real challenge that's before everyone, and increasingly people are, using these tools to do live video e-commerce
Mm.
now. And I think we've talked about it in a past episode, but a site like it's called Whatnot
Oh, yeah.
is a hot topic right now. Um, and you look at TikTok and a lot of the e-commerce stores over there, and content creators that maybe didn't make it as podcasters can go over
Mm.
there and be a huckster of products.
TikTok quality to me has went down. I'm not finding as much stuff that I want to find. I'm searching for stuff like this tragedy in Texas. I was looking for um, on the ground TikToks um for that what was happening there, and I didn't find a lot on TikTok. Maybe people just weren't in the area. It was so devastated. I don't know. But the problem I'm having with TikTok and why I'm using it probably 90% less now is the proliferation of people selling stuff. It's just every
Yeah.
other video is someone doing e-commerce on TikTok. And
Yep.
but it's amazing to me here, um, where I live, I have to go downstairs to pick up my Um, if I have something shipped in, if I have an Amazon or something shipped in from Lazada, that's a shopping network here like Amazon. If I go downstairs, I can see the packages behind the guys, and they're fascinated here with the TikTok shop. 65-70% of the packages that would be on the wall behind me is TikTok shop. Um, so they do a huge amount of commerce here. Which
Yeah.
is pretty remarkable, all
Does
things considering.
does Amazon have much of a place
They
there?
do, there's no just you have to have it shipped in. So, in Amazon, I change my address to the address here, and then it changes the store to show me only things that will ship to the Philippines, and, there was something I wanted, I forgot to bring Tylenol. And
Mm.
you can't ship Tylenol to the Philippines. The only way to get Tylenol in the Philippines, you gotta go to a pharmacy. Tylenol is over the counter. You actually have to ask the pharmacist for Tylenol, and they'll say, "Well, how many pieces do you want?" You can order 10. Now imagine in America, we're all used to buying the 250 pack of Tylenol or Motrin or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And, so,
It's
uh
only a 10 pack there, huh?
well, you tell them how many pieces you want, and you buy by the
Oh,
piece. And, so I was
by the
by the
pill.
pill,
Right.
yeah. And, you have to tell them the milligram, and they don't have the big milligram size. So, I couldn't ship Tylenol to the Philippines. It was not on the allowable shipping list. So, dummy me for not bringing Tylenol. I don't use a lot of Tylenol, but, um, every once in a while, you just need a Tylenol, right? And, so, yeah, it's pretty good. It takes 7 to usually about a week. Usually about a week to get here. They tell you the estimated shipping arrival date, and it's pretty good. I've had some relatively expensive stuff shipped to a couple $100 level, nothing higher than that. It's come through just fine. So,
Yeah, it's good.
yeah.
It's good.
And it is surprising the stuff that you can have shipped here, unlike in America, like I can have alcohol shipped from anywhere here. Um, And, of course, I live in Michigan, and, getting alcohol delivered to your house that is not a wine is impossible. So in some ways, the United States is so far behind in, it's just the regulatory on liquor. The wine industry has done well in allowing wine to be shipped.
Mhm.
Um, and the reason I say that is because I'm on this bourbon kick. They have these bourbon clubs,
Yeah.
and you can sign up for X number of dollars a month, and you get maybe a bottle every quarter or whatever it is. And they can't ship to Michigan. So I have a friend in Indiana that has agreed to allow me to ship to their house, and then I can pick up when I want. So it's dumb, really, really dumb. But anyway, back to the podcast stuff. AI driven. and we're over time, by the way. AI-driven preview snippets boost engagement. Yeah, we've been seeing this too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just
Well,
because it's easier to use. It's quick.
well, you skipped over number 8, which is the audio premiere still wins in key metrics.
Oh,
So this is a story that you should like. I'm
recent
surprised
research
you jumped
finds
over it.
audio podcasts are up to 100% more listeners listen through rates than video. Oh, I believe the listen through rates are much higher on audio podcasts.
Yeah.
But they say audio premiere. Does that mean like an intro?
No, just the audio, you know,
Yeah,
really, I think being audio first, I think is kind of
because
what it's
yeah,
implying, I think.
I agree. And I think it's true in video too. If you're staying on topic, which we just kind of drifted off, but if you're being focused and delivering and staying engaged, audio or video, people will listen through. The problem I have on
Mhm.
video is the pacing sometimes is too damn slow. They just come on, get on with it. Let's go, let's go. A dopamine
That can
hit.
I mean, it can happen on the audio
Oh,
side too.
absolutely. I'm sure it's happened on this show too.
It has.
So
Yeah.
but and that's good. I have no doubt that. I have no doubt at all. But I find
Mhm.
this last one that you have very concerning.
Oh,
And
well, I
whereas
don't think you talked about the AI-driven
yeah,
preview snippets. Yeah.
yeah, it's just it's doing well. I think it's known. It's if I didn't have time to do snippets before and I can do snippets now. And I don't need hours and hours to do it. So why
Yeah.
is it being affected? Because it's easy to pull snippets out with AI and
Yeah.
generate them and publish them.
Yeah, so what we're talking about here is shorts,
Yeah, shorts.
clips or
Yeah.
shorts or
And just an
reels or
and
right.
just an audio only clip are doing well too. We see this, you know.
Mhm.
So I think that it's well known. Like, shorts have done well everywhere. And the
Yeah.
problem you're going to run into is you produce too many shorts, people stop listening to your actual show. Because there's a few
Yeah.
podcasts I don't listen to. I just listen to their 5 shorts.
Yep. So the last topic, and we can let everybody move on with their day or evening or
Yeah.
whatever
Whatever
they're
time you're tuning
whenever
in.
they're consuming this, right? Um, it's this whole thing about, AI content. As AI content grows, it's becoming, a mixed landscape out there around, you know, information and what you can trust and also, you know, ethical framing of topics and things like that. I think that there were some questions, I guess, over this past week with Grok, I guess, being a little bit extreme in its views.
Oh, and somebody got fired over that. There was some sabotage.
Yeah,
Did you hear about that? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Guy got fired, and then he turned on
Right.
the authentic Grok be-
Yeah.
as he was going out the door.
Yeah, he
He got
turned off the guardrail for letting it
yeah.
do what it shouldn't be doing, and yeah. But
So
but also I read into this, it says that they propose an audio alert for potential misinformation in podcasts. That's really not AI. That's a proposal to put an audio alert. Who's gonna okay, who's gonna police that? Uh
it's going to be policed by AI, isn't it?
yeah, okay, whatever. I am absolutely unequivocally against this. GenPod, I
Yeah.
don't know what that is. Shows constructive framing and AI generated podcasts. Okay, so constructive framing. What does that mean? Constructive framing.
I think it's framing that respects a certain kind of guidelines um, in its ability to create negative emotions. Because I think that I think I commented somewhere. I commented on this that there's a lot of research that points to negative commentary generates more interest than positive
Oh yeah, yeah,
commentary,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So So people are leveraging, you see this on X and you see it on a lot of the platforms is that, it's not really about truth. It's or what's wrong or misinformation. It's more about positive references versus negative references.
Mm.
The negative references tend to get more activity.
No,
So that's why you
that's
see on YouTube lots of thumbnails talking about, doomsday, the end of the world,
right,
and
right.
how the markets are going to crash
Yep,
tomorrow.
yep.
So sell all your stocks and,
Yeah,
you know,
clickbait.
right, right. So
And then they
people
come on
respond
and
to
say,
that.
"Oh, the world is great."
Right. And then 2 weeks from now, you think all those guys said that the market was going to collapse and the economy was going to inflation was going to go through the roof, and a year later that never
Right,
happened.
right, right. It's interesting
So
how a lot of these predictions, polling, it's broke. This is all completely fabricated information, stuff
yeah,
that's coming out from people, in the news, the mainstream media is complicit and
yeah.
telling a false narrative.
Yeah,
And
because they're paid by attention. They're paid by
yeah,
audience, right?
and I truly believe they have a political agenda to, and they're not news anymore. They're just extensions of whatever party that might be in
Yeah,
favor at the moment. So it's all
and
BS.
they probably justify it from the perspective that they're an entertainment
Oh, they're
platform now, Todd.
serving their audience.
Right. They're
You know,
providing mental entertainment.
if you go back
It
and
just
look
so
at,
happens that it has a political bias to it.
if you go back and I think I saw something, don't quote me on this, I might be wrong, that 15 of the 16 presidential polls had Kamala Harris winning,
Yeah,
Kamala, excuse me, winning. And how did they all get it so wrong? And, what's the source?
because the research was biased. That's why.
Or, yeah, don't, oh,
They just
you got
asked more Democrats than
right,
they asked
they kept
Republicans.
getting the wrong answer, and they asked more people or something, the left again, I
It's
don't
pretty
know.
easy to
Y
slant research. You just
yeah,
ask more people that are
but
biased
but
towards the side that you want to be slanted to.
but going
Yeah,
back to this particular topic, I feel very, very I think AI should be flagged somehow.
yeah.
There should be a flag that says, "Okay, this is at what percentage is this AI generated?" And I think that's really important. We haven't really talked about that in a while within the podcasting 2.0 space, but I think it's something that should be
Well,
brought
where's
up.
the line is the problem.
Well, that's
I
the
mean,
problem is that no one could agree before what the definition would be.
at what stage in how you're using AI do you cross over that line?
Right.
Is it
Yeah.
just at the creation part, or do you cross over the line by the editing part too?
Yeah. So maybe there has to be a multi-flag level system, but then who's going to comply with that?
Like
So,
almost like the rating systems for
right.
content of
Right.
sorts. Yeah.
Which we've had at Blueberry for years that, very few
Light
people
AI, heavy AI.
people set G for every episodes, and then, earlier in the show, I made a little bit of an expletive. We should have kicked it to PG-13 for this episode.
Right.
So,
Or give me heavy AI, light AI.
yeah,
There you go.
there you go. Or whatever is, or I think it's when it's 100% AI generated. That's when
Yeah.
I can still recognize it, but that's going to change in time.
Yeah.
It's getting better for sure.
All
All
right.
right,
Well, I
Rob,
think we did it.
yes, we're actually over. Actually, we started a little late, so we're not as over as we thought we were. But
Right.
everyone, thanks for being here, and then we're trying to keep these to about an hour.
Yep.
Uh, I'm Todd at blueberry.com, at Geek News on X, at Geek News, at geeknews.chat on Mastodon.
I'm on X as well at Rob Greenlee. Just type in my name, Rob Greenlee, Greenlee, and you can send me an email to robgreenlee@gmail.com. That'll make it to me. We'd love to hear from you and get your feedback on topics we should cover on the show, or just, share whatever you're seeing in the market. We'd love to hear some candid disclosures about what's happening in the advertising
Yeah,
market.
if you have a secret, let us know. We're good at hiding our sources. At
Yeah.
NMS Podcast is the X account for this show. So
Yep.
if you want to follow that over there. But of course, Rob and I both have YouTube channels if you're so inclined. But
Yep.
most
It's
importantly,
just
follow or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite modern
yep.
podcast app. All right, babe. We'll see you next
All
week.
right. Good night.